Support for this podcast and the following message come from Allianz Travel Insurance. Your flight? Booked. Your lungs? Suddenly battling bronchitis. Travel insurance helps protect your travel budget so you can book again once you feel better. Learn more at allianztravelinsurance.com.
Heads up that you are hearing us a day early. We'll be coming to your feed from now on, Tuesdays and Fridays, starting today. You ain't got to do nothing different. Just listen like always. Cool? Cool. What's good, y'all? You're listening to Code Switch from NPR. I'm Gene Demby, and I'm joined today by Ximena Bustillo. What's good, Ximena?
Hey, Gene.
Y'all have heard Ximena on the podcast before. Today, though, we are talking about some huge changes to American immigration policy that will likely affect hundreds of thousands of people who live in the U.S. and people who are not here illegally.
Yeah, if you are an immigrant in the United States or looking to come to the United States, there is at least one agency that you are most likely to run into, and that is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, also known as USCIS. And sometimes they call it CIS, but it's not like the forensics side CIS.
CSI. So wait, USCIS, they're the people you would have to interface with to handle your residency in the United States if you were not born here, right?
Yes. So they give you a green card. They are the one that says that you can be a U.S. citizen. They also are what give people work permits and various visas. And so, if you are looking to be in the United States legally, if you're looking to do that quote-unquote right way, USCIS is often the main keeper of that quote-unquote right way.
Gotcha. Can I ask you a very dumb question?
Mm-hmm.
Is a green card actually green?
I think it has some green in it.
Just on the edges, your fringes.
Okay. A little tint.
Green tinted card. Green card is easy to say. So USCIS is the people you would have to interface with to handle your residency in the United States if you were not born here, right?
Yeah, traditionally. I mean, we are seeing the second Trump administration really change a lot of the focus of USCIS to be a lot more restrictive. So the most recent example of this is in May, there was a policy memo giving USCIS officers who are reviewing these applications for legal permanent residency the discretion that if someone didn't go back to their home country to apply for this green card, that could be a reason to deny it.
Wow.
The law hasn't changed, but this policy memo really freaked people out because it sounds like they want to make it harder for people to be approved for a green card.
Okay, so they're tightening the screws on people who want to stay in the country via green cards, right?
Yeah, via green cards and via just about anything else.
Okay.
I mean, USCIS is in the process of re-vetting refugees that had already been admitted into the country, and then they put a pause on almost all immigration applications from anyone that came from one of 39 countries that currently has a travel ban in the United States. Which means that if you were born in one of those 39 countries, but you're a student, a worker, or a green card holder applying for citizenship, you might need to be renewing something, or you might need to be applying for something. And for many people, that is not getting renewed, and those applications are not being touched.
And then there's DACA.
And then there's Deferred Action for childhood arrivals.
And so quick explanatory comma, DACA was an attempt to create some kind of provision for kids who came here when they were really, really young, like to have some sort of protections to stay in the country because they've basically grown up here in the United States. This is the only place they know. And DACA does not give them legal status, but it does protect them from deportation and allows them to move through the world in all these ways.
Right. And DACA recipients, like folks with other types of, engagement with USCIS, have to renew their status regularly, every 2 years, in fact. So they have to renew. Every 2 years for the last 14 years. They pay hundreds of dollars to renew their DACA.
Wow.
However, that has changed. Under this Trump administration, there has been a huge slowdown of processing at USCIS. What that means for people who rely on something like DACA for not just the deferred action, but also their work permit, which is a separate form they have to re-up every 2 years, is that has an expiration date, a very exact expiration date. And once you hit that date, if your DACA is not renewed, you are completely undocumented. You have no legal status.
Wow.
And to be clear, DACA is not legal status, so that's what sets this group apart from other groups, but it is stripping the permission to legally do things in the country and the ability to be protected, in theory, from immigration enforcement actions against you.
And Ximena, you've been talking to folks who are facing the uncertainty of a DACA-less life in the very near future, possibly. And people who've been renewing, as you said, very regularly, who are now caught in this sort of purgatory.
It's so hard to be living not only in constant limbo, but with this level of hypervigilance that no matter what you do, there are outside factors that can wreck your life with a blink of an eye.
It's just really, really frustrating. And just like, I don't want to be a 40-year-old undocumented person in this country after all the stuff that I've done.
So that's what Ximena is walking us through on this episode. What it's like to live a life in limbo as the Trump administration moves to make it harder to become an American or stay in America.
This message comes from the United States Postal Service. In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment and deadline matters. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. Each package moves through a secure nationwide network, tracked from dock to door. It's delivery you can depend on. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more about how you can start shipping with confidence.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. If you're tired of spending hundreds on big wireless bills, bogus fees, and free perks, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/switch. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
This message comes from LinkedIn ads. Ever invest in something that seemed incredible at first, but didn't live up to the hype? For marketers, that's impressions. When ads don't create revenue, that's a tough conversation with the CFO. Instead, invest in results your CFO will love. LinkedIn ads generates the highest ROAS of all major ad networks. So advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 and get a $250 credit. Just go to linkedin.com/NPRpod. Terms and conditions apply. This message comes from NPR sponsor Carvana. Your time is worth more than a waiting game. Carvana gives you a transparent offer for your car in minutes and picks it up from your door. Sell your car today at Carvana.com. Pickup fees may apply.
So I was able to go to Arizona and talk with people who are in various stages of their DACA renewals. Mm-hmm. So folks who have already renewed, have seen the lapse, have gotten it back. People who are currently in that lapse and are out of work. And then I also spoke with people like Reina Montoya and Jose Patiño, who have their renewals in January 2027, but are now already thinking about when do they apply, how to get together, all the materials to do that, and what if there is a lapse.
I'm Reina Montoya, and I am 35.
Jose Patiño, and I am 37.
Hitting 40, dude.
Let's go. Hey, if I make it to 40, it's an accomplishment, honestly. I never thought I'd make it this far.
So Reina and Jose both run a nonprofit immigrant youth advocacy organization in Arizona called Aliento. Okay. And so they are very involved with a lot of particularly state and local-based immigration advocacy. A lot of DACA recipients are called casually the DACA kids, and they're just not kids anymore. Mm. The average age of a DACA recipient is 31. More than half of DACA recipients are between 31 and 44.
I do think that still people have that conception about dreamers that we are high school students or college students or those little kids. But time has passed. It's been close to 15 years since the first time that the DACA program was announced. I mean, that's a lot of years, right? We grow up like any other American. We age, and that's something that is inevitable. We can't stop time.
They have grown. They have aged as this program has existed for 14 years. Mm-hmm. When DACA was first launched in 2012, you had to be 31 or under and have had entered the United States prior to 2007. So you definitely could have an entire pre-DACA life and then a post-DACA life, which is what we're seeing with a lot of these older DACA recipients is they had often graduated high school. Sometimes they were already trying to figure out college. Sometimes they had already graduated college. Like they could legally drink, but they could not legally be in the United States. And so like they remember that very clearly.
So when DACA was announced, it was a month after I graduated college.
I got the DACA approval on my birthday in 2013. So I was 24.
My DACA expires in January of 2027.
Yeah, mine expires in February of 2027.
So definitely I've been monitoring the calendar, getting a little bit more concerned as I'm hearing of folks that lapse.
Similarly, I am concerned. One of the things typically I'm like, I kind of wait till like there's like 4 months, but this time I'm like, no, it's 6 months. Just to make sure that I do it in my power and then it's not up to me afterwards.
They are now already thinking about when do they apply, how to get together, all the materials to do that, and what if there is a lapse.
Wow.
They have jobs. They have kids, like growing kids, like teenagers of their own. They have aging parents that they're taking care of. They have gotten their degrees because DACA has allowed them to do that, or they're still working on getting their degrees.
All the regular sort of like early middle-age stuff. Right?
Yes, they bought houses, they have cars, they have mortgages. And so going from having legal ability to do all those things to an immediate next day, no legal ability at all is very sudden.
Now we've seen that some individuals are getting detained, arrested, and deported, which is something that I think even if we told a lot of folks pre-Trump being president, they wouldn't believe that would be the case.
We hear more and more stories of people, if they're driving down to Yuma and getting asked at the checkpoint and people still pretending that DACA is no longer a thing. So we're seeing this culture of officials that work within immigration being more emboldened. So definitely I feel the fear is more palpable.
It's just the danger is more real than ever before. And it's not guaranteed. And if you do everything, what they ask you to do, that you're actually going to be able to get a renewal.
Now, both Reina and Jose have been involved in immigration advocacy for a very long time. And they have always been, participating in different events and with different organizations. And I think also just Arizona as a state has a very long history of immigration advocacy.
Like, we were fully undocumented. I remember doing campaigns, making calls. I had graduated from Arizona State University on May 2012. And I remember feeling so discouraged, like not knowing like if I was going to be able to put my degrees at use, not knowing what was going to happen. At that time, we had come up from like a failure of the DREAM Act in 2010, but we kept pushing. So we were doing a lot of like advocacy and pushing President Obama at that time to do something about it.
This morning, Secretary Napolitano announced new actions my administration will take to mend our nation's immigration policy, to make it more fair, more efficient, and more just, specifically for certain young people, sometimes called dreamers.
And so when former President Barack Obama went to go make that famous announcement in the Rose Garden, they actually were amongst the people in the country that knew something was coming before Obama spoke those words.
Wow.
We didn't know it was going to be called DACA, but I remember getting a call at 5 a.m. in the morning before the announcement from a DC number. And they said, can you get a bunch of dreamers in a room and do a press conference? Because big news are going to happen and a lot of dreamers might benefit from it. And I remember hearing on June 15 of 2012, President Obama in the Rose Garden making the announcement.
Effective immediately, the Department of Homeland Security is taking steps to lift the shadow of deportation from these young people. Over the next few months, eligible individuals who do not present a risk to national security or public safety will be able to request temporary relief from deportation proceedings and apply for work authorization.
I was so nervous. I remember trying to understand like what that meant. I think that I migrated with a tourist visa. We overstayed. I didn't know all of those terms back then. And it was many years later that I learned that the reason why we migrated was because my dad was kidnapped by Mexican police. So we were fleeing violence. So for me, a lot of my dreams were about safety. But I just remember like trying to figure it out. One, like who was going to be able to qualify. There was like so many questions, but it was just this sense of hope that despite of who qualified or not, like they were going to be some people that would have some peace. And my brother is 7 years younger than me. So I just remember that I was like secretly praying. It's like, even if I don't qualify, I just hope that my little brother is able to like be okay.
Jose was 21 at the time that DACA was announced. He'd been advocating for a program like it for years. But when the DACA policy was actually put into place, it was a little bit bittersweet because it did have limitations. A lot of people simply wouldn't qualify, and that included people that he worked with at a restaurant.
And there were adults who were working at like the restaurant, and they were like, they're not gonna qualify for it. And then I thought about my family because I'm the youngest of four. All four of us would probably qualify, my siblings and a lot of cousins. So I was happy. I thought of my parents, and I was sad. I thought of those workers, and they were not want to qualify. And they were like, don't worry about us. Like, we're just happy that you can have this, that somebody can have this. And they're like, just don't forget about us.
It really did change the way people could live. It did change their lives like it did for hundreds of thousands of people.
I was pretty lucky. I was one of the first ones here in Arizona that was able to benefit from it. I just remember that it came right after election, so I felt like it was my election present.
But yeah, I mean, even when Obama made this announcement, he makes it clear.
Let's be clear. This is not amnesty.
This is not amnesty.
This is not immunity. This is not a path to citizenship. It's not a permanent fix. This is a temporary stopgap measure.
A temporary stopgap that is supposed to give Congress more time to find a permanent solution. But as we all know, that permanent solution has never come. And in the past, especially with DACA, like that has been a population with a lot of bipartisan support where it was almost like a small bubble. It was a little bit protected in terms of those are not people that we're proactively looking for, that we're not proactively targeting, and if we encounter them, let them go. Mm-hmm. That has changed under this Trump administration.
You said in the past. Again, doing a lot of heavy lifting. So
ominous.
What has changed?
This Trump administration has not rescinded DACA.
Okay.
They tried the first time, and legally they were not allowed to. Like the Supreme Court said, you didn't do this in the right way. You can't do it. There was also a lot of bipartisan public backlash,
right.
Where the Trump administration, I think even now understands that rescinding DACA proactively is not politically smart.
Okay.
However,
I was waiting for the clause.
However, there are many ways, again, through policy, that things can change in order to make being on DACA undesirable. So the Biden administration, for example, expanded healthcare access so that in order to be on the marketplace, DACA counted as legal status. Even though DACA is not legal status, the Biden administration expanded that definition to include DACA.
Okay.
The Trump administration took that back. So now if you're on DACA, you don't have access to the healthcare marketplace. Last year, there were a few investigations launched into colleges and universities that provide financial aid to DACA recipients. There was a big public messaging campaign from the Department of Homeland Security to not only emphasize that DACA is not legal status, but those without legal status have to self-deport. So you are telling DACA recipients, you should leave. And that then escalated from, access issues and messaging issues to the increasing number of DACA recipients who have been caught up in immigration enforcement, meaning that they have been arrested, they have been detained, and they have been deported.
Wow.
And in some cases, federal district judges have ordered that those people need to be returned. And in some cases, the government has returned people that it deported.
And it's interesting to see that now as a 37-year-old. When I was once 18 years old. Like, I was so hopeful. We do a lot of presentations, especially in education. So a lot of the counselors and teachers think of like high school students or middle school students and university students. And they get shocked when we're like, there's no DACA recipient in high school. So the program is basically closed for them. Many, probably under like the age of 25, don't even know what the DACA program is, general public. Many of the students have no idea the DACA program exists, what it was, who's eligible. I'm like, this is the students that we're working with. And it's also like now we're asking them like kind of to believe that this mythical thing can happen, like DACA become a mythical program for them.
Coming up, the dream DACA promise and the price of building a life on a status that can be taken away. Stay with us.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Spectrum Business, providing connectivity solutions to help your business stay online and on track, delivering fast, reliable internet, phone, TV, and mobile solutions, all backed by 100% U.S.-based support. They offer scalable plans and straightforward pricing. Spectrum Business, reliable connections, responsive support, and tailored solutions that power your success. Learn more at spectrum.com/business. Restrictions apply. Services not available in all areas.
This message comes from the United States Postal Service. In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment and deadline matters. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. Each package moves through a secure nationwide network, tracked from dock to door. It's delivery you can depend on. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more about how you can start shipping with confidence. This message comes from LinkedIn Ads. Ever invest in something that seemed incredible at first, but didn't live up to the hype? For marketers, that's impressions. When ads don't create revenue, that's a tough conversation with the CFO. Instead, invest in results your CFO will love. LinkedIn Ads generates the highest ROAS of all major ad networks. So advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 and get a $250 credit. Just go to linkedin.com/NPRpod. Terms and conditions apply.
Brazil used to have one of the fastest growing economies in the world. People called it the country of the future.
Their songs, O Brasil é o país do futuro, because it seems like we have it all, man.
But then the music stopped. On the Planet Money podcast, a lot of countries these days aren't rich, they aren't poor, they're just kind of stuck in the middle. Why is that? Listen on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Gene, code switch. Well, not just Gene, because Ximena Bustillo, one of our immigration reporters here at NPR, has been telling me about her reporting on how the Trump White House is treating the DACA program and the now mostly middle-aged recipients of that special immigration status. So DACA is almost 14 years old, and it's been contested ever since it was put into place. After Obama implemented it, Trump tried to get rid of it. The first time, courts struck that down, and there was public backlash. And now in this administration, they have not taken steps, like you said, to get rid of DACA, but they have made it harder to access. They've stripped the program. What is that experience like for Jose and for Reina as they go through the process of trying to re-up again, this thing that they've done every 2 years for most of their adult lives?
You know, they acknowledge that it is unstable. We're talking now about 500,000 people on DACA. Some have found ways to adjust their status. They've married U.S. citizens. They've been able to get legal status through different ways. Some have left the country. And so things move and they evolve, but the policy's the same. And I think that it is important to acknowledge that the implications of the same policy are going to be different because the population that we're talking about is now different.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, for me, that's a main factor about why I don't want to have kids, because I know what it's like to live with the uncertainty of growing up with undocumented parents. I lead a nonprofit, so it's not just about me. Like, I think about my employees. Like, they're counting on my ability to run a successful organization for them to bring food to their table and to feed their families. So definitely it's like this level of extra pressure, not only for yourself, but for your family, but also for the commitment of your work, right? And if I were to be lapsed within my DACA, I wouldn't be able to do that job and get compensated, right? So I think that there's all these different layers that we're navigating at this age that is very different when you're in your early 20s.
So at this point in time, I don't think I want to be a 40-year-old undocumented person who has a master's degree and all these things on my resume. And I'm like, maybe it's enough that this country doesn't want you. And they said it multiple times. And I think that probably that hurts the most, the fact that Trump was elected twice. And the last time with the popular vote and significant Latino support, significant people that I'm within my family, uncles and cousins that I grew up who were undocumented at some time, and then adjusted their status. The fact that I had conversations with them and they decided, like, we're going to still vote for this person. I'm like, this is what could happen to not only me, but your brother, your sister, people that you care about. So that's the thing that was the most painful and still painful within me. And that's something that to me is like, at some point in time, a country can tell you so many different ways that they don't want you here.
And on one hand, they stay because this is their country. They love it. They believe in it. But, you know, at this point, they have seen so many ups and downs of DACA that they kind of know they can't really trust it.
So I feel that, like, if I were to make the really hard choice of leaving my country, which I consider the U.S. my home, I'm in that age that I should probably be thinking, because another country like Canada or Spain would hire me pretty quickly in other fields. So I'm in that age that I'm still competitive age, right? That they desire me to move. But if I am like 55 and I'm in a place like this that I'm undocumented, I'm not going to be so desirable to migrate legally to another place.
DACA recipients that I spoke with have varying minds about this. Some of them, you know, they know what they're in for, and it's kind of like, it's been described to me as like a base level anxiety that they just kind of like always sort of have, but they've always had it. So, you know, they have other things, they have jobs, they have kids. So it's there, but like it's not, they're not awake thinking about it every night. Other people are a lot more panicked about that instability. And I think that just awareness of that instability has gotten a little bit worse this year as we are seeing these lapses and not just, DACA's being challenged in court again.
We're seeing that this administration is utilizing every tool at their disposal, from delays to detentions to arrests, to ensure that this program becomes weaker and weaker.
So it's like this new like agency side impact on being able to just have DACA is, I think, what takes it to the next level for a lot of people.
We were made a promise by the U.S. government that if we come in good faith, tell them all our documents that we've been here, that they were not going to utilize that data against us. And we're seeing with this administration that they're not respecting that promise.
Well, that promise was made by the Obama administration, not Trump. It's a different world, right?
Still the U.S. government, though.
I think clearly enough that Trump has said that this, whatever was promised before him, it no longer matters. And I think we should behave that way. I think that it will get worse before it gets better.
I think we could hazard some guesses if we wanted, but like, what has the Trump administration said about why so no? How does it explain its motivations for trying to keep people from staying in the country?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, the answer is the same. They go back to it's a national security risk. And they say that the vetting that had been done under prior administrations, including its own, was not enough. And so processing at USCIS has gotten a lot slower, and they say it's because they need to take more time to review every application and do more vetting. And we see this as the rationale with DACA. We see this as the rationale with the pause on 39 countries that have the travel ban with people who are already here. You know, that is essentially the bottom line across the board.
But of course, the Trump administration has also been playing footsie with the idea that this country should be a country for white people and has taken a very hardline anti-immigrant stance. Those things seem pretty related.
Yeah, I mean, like even just looking at the mission statement change of USCIS, there is a focus on protecting American workers. They had taken out, even during the first Trump administration, the phrase nation of immigrants from the mission statement. America is not a nation of immigrants, it is a nation of citizens. And, you know, kind of like what that means, who it's allowing in, who it's not. Again, with USCIS kind of across the board taking this stance, we're seeing this also this month with how it's handling the refugee system. Now, refugees are also under the State Department, and there are many other agencies that deal with refugees, but they did just increase the cap from about 7,500 to 17,500, so adding about 10,000 refugees. But then they said all those slots are going to be filled with white South Africans, known as the Afrikaners. And so far this fiscal year, there have only been 3 refugees to be admitted into the United States that were not white Afrikaners. So, you know, they are leaning into that idea of who is in, who is out. Who do we want to make it more difficult for to follow those existing pathways for either a legal status or alternatively, what is a protection that has been granted before and how do we limit that?
Jose and Reina have been DACA recipients for, again, like most of their adult lives, almost 15 years now. How are they feeling about their prospects with this administration being the people handling their status?
Yeah. You know, I think when I asked them about kind of the future here, they are both kind of slightly different two minds about it.
For me, this is home. It goes back to a very simple thing that my dad taught me is when you don't like something, when something is broken, you don't complain about it, you do something about it. And I think for me, that's where I hold on to. That's what gives me irrational sense of hope and optimism. I try to be reminded that we're not hopeless, that we do have power, even though that we're fighting really hard institutions and really a really hard administration that is really against us. I do believe in what I was taught when I came to the United States. I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the American Dream Kool-Aid. And I do believe that we are a country that needs to be living up to our values of all men are created equal. I'm going to continue to fight until the last day that they have me here. I'll fight for not only myself, but for our country that has given an opportunity to DACA recipients. And we have seen the success of that. And even though that there's actors that are trying to take that away from us, it is up to us whether we let that happen or not.
You know, Jose is definitely not stepping away from that fight. But at the same time, he acknowledges, and Reina does too, to be clear, but like he acknowledged a lot more of the eroded trust within the community.
The DACA program was the hope, not only for DACA recipients who are eligible, but also for younger generations and older generations, that this country, that things could be different. And to many extents, the erosion of the DACA program and the protections has eroded a lot of that hopefulness within the community, because they're like, if those kids who, I think that's those kids, now we're middle-agers, if those individuals that were the most protected or had like the most compelling story or like the best things and did everything right, if they're vulnerable, then what about us?
So DACA used to represent hope. What does it represent now?
I think it still represents hope. So a lot of people talk about dreamers.
Mm-hmm.
Not every dreamer is a DACA recipient.
Right.
A dreamer is just someone who was brought here when they were young. And in the vein of advocating for this like very young population, they were labeled as dreamers, like someone that had a dream of growing up someday and becoming an astronaut or a teacher or a scientist. And the goal was advocating for that future. And I asked a lot of folks, including Reina and Jose, if the dream had been achieved. You know, did you dream?
Did it become real?
Did it become real? And I think for a lot of people that I spoke with, the answer is yes, but the dream doesn't stop. So, you know, there's still a dream of falling in love with someone and getting married. There's still the dream of finishing your PhD. There's still the dream of that next stage in life and or maintaining the thing you were able to achieve, like just sustaining that happiness of you have your own apartment in downtown and it's really adorably decorated and you have it to yourself and you get to live on your own. Like just achieving that and maintaining that is happiness. And so I think for people who are on DACA, right now, DACA is the key to maintaining that or achieving that next thing. But then at the same time, a lot of people, I want to say almost regretted it. Like almost said, like, yes, I've achieved all these things, but now it could be taken away from me at any moment. Now I'm overly dependent on the government. Now at any point, like, it could have been all for nothing. And would I have just been better off living in the shadows? Like, you fall harder. And it was really interesting hearing people describe it as this thing that has provided them so much opportunity and so much freedom, and then describing it as an anchor and like a thing that also brings them down. And, you know, it provides. And when it provides, it's great. But when that gets taken out, it's like the fall is really hard. And that is a reality that I think is a lot sharper in the last year, 6 months than before with a lot of the other fights that we have seen the last few years with DACA.
Ximena Bustillo is a correspondent for NPR who covers politics and policy in Washington, specifically as it relates to the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration. Thank you, Ximena.
Thanks, Jane.
And that's our show. But just a reminder that our next episode will be coming to your feed on Friday. You'll be finding us every week going forward on Tuesdays and Fridays. Thank you for listening, as always, for rocking with us. This episode you're listening to was produced by Christina Kalla. It was edited by Courtney Stein and Anna Yukananoff, and our engineer was Robert Rodriguez. And we would be remiss if we did not shout out the rest of the Code Switch Massive. That's Xavier Lopez, Jess Kung, Leah Danella, Dalia Mortada, B.A. Parker, Barton Girdwood, and Yolanda Sangweni. As for me, I'm Gene Demby.
And I'm Ximena Bustillo.
Be easy, y'all.
Bye.
This message comes from Grainger. For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need to get the job done. With fast delivery and access to technical product experts ready to help you meet any challenge. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. This message comes from Thumbtack. Recommendations can be great. Maybe someone recommended this podcast, and here you are. But home projects are different. If a podcast isn't your thing, you lose a few minutes. If you hire your cousin's neighbor to mount your TV, you might end up with a lopsided screen and wall damage. That's why Thumbtack works. It matches people with top-rated local pros with photos, reviews, and credentials all in one place. For your next home project, try Thumbtack. Hire the right pro today.
A grassy green lawn might look nice, but it's going to eat up resources like drinking water and the gas you put in the mower.
You can do a solid for the environment by ditching even just some of your lawn and replacing it with a wildlife-friendly garden.
Life Kit has tips to get you started. No green thumb required. Listen to the Life Kit podcast in the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.